Hello friends, Christian here with Brick Life Crisis, and today we have another LEGO Movie 2 set. This is Benny's Space Squad, consisting of 68 pieces, including 4 minifigures, a droid, and 2 little vehicle builds. So I'm very excited about this one. I was a big fan of the classic space theme when I was a kid, so this is a chance to kind of relive my childhood without buying all those vintage sets that are very expensive these days. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and crack it open. So if we take a look at the back of the box, you can see the builds that are going to be enjoyed here. There's a little rover that has room for, looks like a couple of minifigures to sit in. And then there's a small spacecraft, and then the 4 figures and the droid. And something that a lot of you have already seen before, but I'll point it out anyway. The figures are all named to rhyme with our lead character, Benny. So the yellow guy is Kenny. Benny, of course, is the blue one. And then there's the droid. The pink one is Lenny, and the white one is Jenny. How about that? One more quick note before we open this up. This is a $10 set, and I initially expected it to be in a $10 box, like this. However, as you can see, this box is a bit smaller. This is more the size of a microfighter box. Not that big of a deal. It was just a little bit different than I expected, so I thought I'd point it out. Alright, so here we have it, set number 70841, Benny's Space Squad. As you can see, we have 2 little vehicles, 4 figures, and a robot. Let's go ahead and take a look at each of these components one by one. Alright, and here we have our little space cruiser. It's a very small build, of course. But it's very well done and is very reminiscent of some of the smaller classic space sets from back in the day. This is a printed piece, this 2x4 sloped piece. There's a little steering wheel there, a couple of 1x1 trans red tiles to suggest some lights. There's a little thruster piece back here, an antenna, just a couple of wing pieces, and then these you can imagine as being weapons of some kind, or perhaps some kind of sensors, but that's basically it. There's not a whole lot to this build, but that is not disappointing to me, because that's very much what the old classic space sets were like, especially the smaller ones that were the equivalent of like a poly bag. They used to come in boxes back then, but you would get something like this with a figure for $1.50, $2 maybe. Today that would be like a $4 or $5 polybag type of a set, but this is the type of build you would get with a little figure to pilot it, and that would be it. But pretty cool. They've done a really nice job recreating the feel of the classic space in these new sets, so I am quite pleased. The secondary vehicle is not quite as impressive, but it's still pretty good, and again reminiscent of some of the older secondary builds that you might get in a set. Basically, we just have a little buggy. There's some yellow, trans yellow up there to suggest some lights of some sort. There's a steering wheel. There's a couple of clips on the back for accessories, and some rugged tires. That's basically what you would get. You wouldn't have these pieces because those are relatively new, but you would have room for a figure or 2, and just a little moon buggy kind of thing. So not too bad. Alright, and here we have our first classic spaceman. This is Kenny. As you can see, he's in all yellow with those classic space air tanks. All yellow costume with the exception of that printed logo there, the classic space logo that is really, really well recreated. I'm very excited about that. Got a classic space helmet to match the costume, and then he just has that classic face as well. No alternate face, of course. This is a pretty faithful reproduction of one of the original classic figures. And then here we have Benny. This is a really good representation of Benny from the movie, and he is carefully done with that print there on the torso that is supposed to look like it is old and worn away, and they've done a really good job doing that. Also, that break and the chin strap of the helmet is done intentionally. It's actually molded that way, but as most of you probably know, those old 70s, 80s vintage helmets had a tendency to break down there at the middle, and so that is why Benny in the movie has a broken chin strap, and why his figure does as well. Other than that print, he's a basic blue figure. He's got the basic air tanks. The helmet, of course, as I mentioned, is modified. He is the one figure in the set that has a custom head mold, or head print rather, and he's got a big happy face there, and a not so happy face on the other side. Looks like he might have made a mistake and is kind of worried. Who knows? And this figure is Lenny. Lenny is wearing a pink outfit with classic print and classic helmet and air tanks, all pink all the way around. No alternate face, of course, just the classic face. But they've went ahead and made the pink one and gave it the name Lenny instead of Jenny, who we'll meet next. It's just kind of a fun inclusion. Pink is a new color for the astronauts. They did not have pink astronauts back in the 70s, 80s. They had red, blue, green, white, yellow, black, I think, but not pink. So this is a new one. And finally we have Jenny in the white outfit. Again, a very nice reproduction of that classic space logo on the torso, and basic white outfit all the way around. Each of the figures was given an accessory. This first one is either some sort of sensor array, or you could see it as a weapon of some sort, but it's basically just a little two-piece build of some sort of handheld instrument or weapon. Next we have the classic CB radio or walkie-talkie. This piece has been in use for several decades, and this was one of the accessories that were common in the classic space set, so it's cool that it was included here as well. Another common space accessory was the metal detector, or mine detector, however you want to see it. It's one piece unit that has the kind of round instrument at the bottom, and then a little handheld box there. So nice to see that included as well. And finally, another classic accessory, the wrench. It's the wrench on the one end and then a flathead screwdriver at the other. So it's kind of nice to have that included with the accessory pack. And finally we have our little robot. This guy is a pretty simple build. It's made up of a gray that camera piece. There's a radar dish piece, 2x2 radar dish at the bottom to represent a stand, a couple of cheese slopes, an antenna, and then a couple of old style droid arms. So pretty cool. Nice little extra. Alright, that about does it for this one. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave us a like. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those below. And until next time, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye for now.